ये लो पत्ता निकालो Cheese is good for brain.
Good for brain. For brain?
It calms you down.
If anyone needs to use the restroom, this is the time. You got about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. I would say 3 to 5 minutes. And then we'll start.
आपको व्हीलर चाहिए?
हाँ, इतना जल्दी नहीं, थोड़े बहुत देख कर लेगा। तो फिर थोड़ा
जब इसको टाइम लगता है ना और गरम होने में।
जल्दी मैं अभी
अच्छा ठीक है।
हाँ, वो सारे डाल रहे हैं।
It's not supposed to be options, but it makes me like, well, can I ask a question? It's not supposed to be nothing. We always used to, my father had magic, and then he had this other blender for them.
Yeah, like on the solid. Yeah, I was going to go into detail about that, but then I said too much. What we didn't really discuss. Okay, yeah. Not always. That's the whole point. Yeah, exactly. Here you very or it's not like too much of a combination of the two.
Okay. So I get these two packets with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want this in the sink?
Everything is what it is. I mean, you know what I want to get? You know what I put in here now? Yeah, I'm definitely going to get this sugar on there coming through here. That'll be nice with all the sweet and the chocolate and the bananas and the excellent. Yeah, उसके बाद वो सब खाली वो साफ करना.
ये खोल दो.
नहीं अभी नहीं.
ये साफ कर दे.
I'm gonna use the other one for now. Yeah, okay. ठीक है. ये उस तरफ जाएंगे. इस तरफ जाएंगे और
मैं उसको प्लेट
ये और ये इसमें
इसमें ऑलिव ऑयल है ये दो No, fine. Yeah.
Fine, Joe.
Yeah. Jayshree. So does anybody else want their recipe ahead of time to do their markings and then return afterwards? Thank you. Can't wait till tomorrow. Why? To give out the masala dubbers, to give out the packets of chai, and to give out the folders that have all the recipes and Baba's words and the Vogue offering and everything in there. So everyone will have exactly what they need to be equipped to make beautiful, delicious Sattvik cooking food.
Yeah. That little dubber you had is cute.
Everybody's, exactly. This one right here.
Yeah, that's adorable.
Got everybody the nice little small ones, nice petite ones.
Does that come from India?
Yeah, I had asked for the dubbers ahead of time. Those arrived, and then we're going to fill them all here. And then you guys all get to take it just like this. And each one has its own little spoon.
Aww.
So you can do your little thing and just feel totally like, yes! All right, so do we have everybody? Are we all here? I think so, right? Kali ek check karna wo aur koi hai. Kali wo. Dada kidhar hai? Bada? Nahi, जरूरी नहीं.
Are we waiting on the disruptive middle?
Okay, boys, let's go.
He wasn't referring to you guys.
Oh, yes, she was.
You're here.
I've been accused
नहीं कुछ
of
नहीं
disrupting.
नहीं खाली मैं प्रभु को बुलाया वो और कोई है उधर वो bathroom मैंने I told people they can go to the bathroom so I just said double check there's nobody else so once we start then we continue और कोई है बस Sadhguru Maharaj ki jai. So what we're going to cover in this session now from about 11:25 till it probably will take us closer to 12:45 is we're going to cover the tofu scramble, which has become one of our all-time favorites for breakfast, but today we'll serve it for lunch. So we're going to go over tofu scramble, and then towards the end of the class today we're going to introduce you to what our offering of the food to the gods is. So everybody will also know how to do the little ritual that happens here with the offering of the food. So Prabhu will go over that in detail with us afterwards. So those are the two elements. Those are your two take-homes from this class. And then we'll come back at around 3 o'clock and do our pecan toffee bars with the ginger, lemon, honey tea, afternoon tea. So the first thing we're going to start with is the tofu. So technically what you would do, this is going to be, again, this is tofu eggs for our tofu scramble for 30 people. But what we're going to do is, so technically the night before you would already, which we did here, you would already take your tofu out of the boxes. Always start with the extra firm tofu. Did I put that on there? Extra firm? Okay, so extra firm tofu. And you want to already have it draining the night before. It takes a long time to get all the water out. Otherwise, what ends up happening is when you put it into your pot, it takes a long time of stirring, 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 waiting for it to drain, waiting for it to drain, waiting for it to drain, because it won't get brown or it won't start to become a little drier till all the water is gone. So that process, you definitely want to start the night before. Obviously, if you're doing it with only 1 or 2 packs of tofu, it's not going to take you as long as this does, so you could probably do it the same morning. So that's number one. And then what we're going to use for ours is the olive oil, right? And one thing I do want to bring your attention to here is that usually, like, if it's Western dishes, try to stick with Western herbs and all of that. When it's Indian, then go Indian. Don't always try to do the cross connection there because it doesn't always taste the same. It's like if you have Italian food, you want to have Italian seasonings so that it stays authentic and to that particular region or country, but it's not always about trying to make Indian food Western or with a Western tilt or the Western food Indian. So leave it as it is. That's after many years of experimenting. So tofu eggs. So what we're going to do is we're going to put olive oil in the pot. And I'm going to put just probably enough to get us like so that there's a little bit of a coating. Now on these burners, on these candy stove burners, you have two different flames. You have an outer flame and you have an inner flame. So you want to make sure that that they're even. You don't want it too hot on the outside or too hot on the inside. So you definitely want to adjust your flame. So we're just going to wait a few minutes. And because we're using a pot of that size, we definitely want to have our pot holders ready available. So if at any given point you need to get something up because of it being the aluminum and being hot, you can get to it quickly. And then what we're going to be doing is putting the tofu all inside of here and start the stirring process, and everybody will come around and take the utensil in your hand and stir it around. It takes a little while to do that, so what we'll be doing simultaneously while we're waiting for the tofu to become dry and then browning it a little bit, we'll move to the grill and we'll start grilling our celery, red peppers, and corn. Now you can do this. The best thing is in summer when corn is fresh at the farms, get the fresh corn on the cob. It's so delicious. This one is second best, but it's not the fresh because right now we're out of that season. But still, I would say in the tofu scramble, these three combinations, if you use onions and garlic, definitely get your spring onions up there. It'll be delicious. Or you can do mushrooms, or you can also do tomatoes, right? If you have the good heirloom fresh tomatoes in the summer times from the farms, and then you wouldn't need to use your red bell pepper or anything like that. Some people like the green bell pepper, but for our purposes, we're going to go with this combination for today. So, alright. So now, Madhu, will you hold this? Let me have him. Hold the whole bowl, yeah, because there's water underneath it. And I'm a full flame on both of them because it takes a little while. So because we're already at 11:30 and we want to make sure we make it by the 1 o'clock. So now we're going to go to the grill. We're going to turn on the grill about 3/4 on both flames. And that's because we're just turning it on now, so we want it to kind of get hot quickly, but not too much. Give that a few minutes to heat up, and then we're going to put more olive oil here, and then we're going to put up our celery, brown the celery first, and then we'll add the red peppers, and then the corn last, because the corn doesn't take very much, but you'll see it all nicely browned on here. And then we'll add basil to that, and also cook the basil with all three of these so that we have a nice grilled mixture here that we can then add into the tofu. And then we'll add our salt, less on the salt because we will be adding cheese, and the cheese that I prefer to use for this one is always like a Swiss cheese, so it can be any type of a Swiss. The best one, which is what this one is a Jarlsberg. So that gives a nice mild flavor, and it also the texture of this particular cheese goes well with it so that it mixes into it. If you try different cheeses, you'll see for yourself. If you try to go with Fontina, you try to go with Parmesan, you try to go with Gouda, you try to go with eat them, you try to go with any of them, Gruyere. You'll see that each one has its own texture, and not all of them become gooey, and not all of them melt, and not all of them integrate into it. So then you end up like having it just on the surface, but it doesn't actually get mixed in properly. So you want it to be smooth, and you want it to be flavorful throughout the whole, every bite. And we are going to put in this one turmeric powder. And I know I said my thing about the mixing and matching, but because tofu eggs, technically eggs are yellow, so you use the turmeric to try to give that that look to it, but again, not too much of it. And basically, that's going to be it, and probably some black pepper. And at the end, once the tofu, and it does have a tendency to stick, so you just have to keep going back and forth. And at the end, once the tofu is pretty much dry and all the water is out, we will add probably some of the butter into it. The butter is always good for flavor and also good for browning. So that technically you always do a little bit of butter, but you don't do the whole thing in butter, otherwise it would be too hard to digest. Sure. So I would say everybody can swing through. We'll do one round of the tofu eggs with everybody, at least right now, just to see what it looks like, how broken up it is. Because you definitely want it broken up when you put it in your colander or strainer the night before. Definitely mash it up in the colander. Don't just put it in there as a block. You gotta put your hands in there and knead it a little bit so that the water starts to come out.
And then you cover it.
But yeah, and then I just put a cloth over the top of it.
But not in the refrigerator.
No, I had it in the fridge, and then this morning I took it out to get it room temperature. Our experience always is with, if you keep things room temperature, then you have less gas, less expense, less propane, less flame on, versus like bringing something directly out and it's like freezing cold from the fridge, and then it takes twice or thrice the amount of time to get it warm. Same thing with soups from the night before. Take it out in the morning already, let it already start to get to room temperature, so by the time you get it on the flame, less time on the flame.
Makes sense.
You're hot today. Well, the hat is gone. The boys will be boys. They make a trip to Restaurant Depot and then they see a hat. It's like, okay. I don't think so. And it's always nice to see what it looks like at the beginning, and then as we keep moving through it, what it turns into at the end. That's what I always love. Starting with the basics and then seeing it at the end. What? Yes, that's great. You are. Oh, yeah. I only started the corn here with our fresh farm. So I'm not gonna tell you, like, oh my God. Yeah. Love it. So now it's like I actually like the color. I like the yellow. Monica was just asking a question, did we always put corn in it? And I said, until we actually moved here and got involved with all the farm stands and seeing the fresh ears of corn, that was kind of how it started. But otherwise, before that, it was more about the onions and the mushrooms and the peppers and stuff. But now, and also for me, it was also the color. I like the red, the yellow, the basil, the green. So when it all gets in there, it's just like, yeah, nice palette.
Did this come from the ashram at all? Or was this something that was picked up along the way?
Something picked up along the way. We used to have tofu eggs there, but I don't really remember what they tasted like at that time. And then I just remembered always, yeah, just a nice breakfast thing other than the same toast and this. And, okay, so we're gonna go to the grill now. And we'll start with the celery. And again, if you were doing onions and garlic, you'd be doing onions right now instead of the celery. Again, you'll see like over here on the side, how the water keeps coming up on the side. We're just boiling all that water out and getting it nice and dry. But it takes a while, even with having had this in the colander overnight, it takes a while. So patience, stirring, watching.
You're a sweet water.
The thing, you can keep trying to press. I mean, if you're two people, yeah, if you're trying to bigger amount, it takes a lot more. So in front, because you've always got so many multiple things happening, so it's just like, okay, let's turn the call overnight. It's much easier. You can try to keep doing it. Still, even then, it's in there. You got it. It has to go through its process. It's a natural process.
Your tofu is locked, then you have to press
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah, for sure. And you can try to put something on it the night before, heavy chopping boards, all of that, but it's still, it's gonna come to just maybe a little less. But this is like a whole big box, so it's gonna take.
This is mango seed of course. Yeah, that's when you put it on good.
And when you feel that the celery is about halfway done, which we're not there yet, that's when you're gonna add the red bell peppers, right?
Which do you do?
Shanti came. It's fine. I just picked them out.
You're using tomatoes, you probably throw it into the last.
What was that?
Tomatoes instead of bell pepper.
Yes,
You'd wait
and the
because-
tomatoes you do it at the end because again, they're gonna get juicy and the water's gonna come. So you do them up here, get all of it, and then be able to like the good farm stand tomatoes. So your yellow ones, your orange ones, your red ones, flavorful ones, those bad ugly ones. Delicious.
And you cook them separate and then when they're dried out?
Yeah, I would put them up here with the celery when I'm kind of getting them. And again, I would go with like a little less on the bell pepper, so more celery because it cooks way down, and maybe 3/4 of the bell peppers, and then maybe like 3/4 of the corn.
And you're not adding any salt to this?
Not yet. First, I'm going to get it all grilled and stuff, and then I'll add in all my. And again, and then to the tofu, you're not going to add the turmeric until the water is gone. You're going to wait till that time. And you always want to make sure that you're like spreading and folding and mixing like thoroughly and evenly. Because otherwise you end up with like much of it in the middle is like all really well done, and then on the sides it's still all raw and ketchup. So we don't want that.
You want to let it?
You have to keep letting it, yeah, you stir it a little bit, then you walk away, and then let it, yeah, exactly. And then you come back and you keep it over.
That's what it's for.
Yeah, little by little.
But like, especially where you want the shape of the tofu to stay intact, how do you get the water besides pressing? Well, pressing is the only way.
Say that again?
In some dishes, not just scrambled tofu. In some dishes, you want the tofu to have maintain its shape.
Like the squares or whatever, like if you're making.
Marinated tofu.
Yeah, so you would marinate it, and then when you.
Keep pressing it.
The thing is when you actually like saute it like up on the grill and stuff, the water, it evaporates on its own. You don't have to like do this, but because it's all broken down, it just keeps staying. It's like a never-ending project for a while. So then it all gets to them.
Also, the quantity for which you make it.
And again, on the salt, remembering to put less salt according to whatever type of cheese you're going to put. Because the cheese has salt in it, so you don't want to put your regular amount of salt plus cheese. And then be like, oh wow, it's too salty. I like the sweetness of the corn, so it's always like, okay. And remembering that all of these things, they all shrink down. So never be like, oh, you know, that looks like so much, and all goes like this. And you still want to make sure you have plenty of it present in your dish. All the celery and all the bell peppers, or is that from later? Is tofu okay over there? Yep, it's coming just. So let's see it coming up. Yeah. This mixture here to get a little and soft, but you don't want it to be like overly too dark either. Then it'll take away from the beauty of the color and it'll affect the whole color of that. So you don't want to. Alright, so now to this, I'm going to already add the basil to this. Yeah, but I'm not worried about that because what will happen is on the bottom, yeah, I want it to get like thick, something like that. So that's, no, good. Yeah, I don't want it to go into smoke now. Yeah. And then shortly I'm going to be adding the butter onto, a little bit onto the vegetables here.
Is there a lot, like, sometimes you see chefs say they pour something into the pan to deglaze all of the stuff that's been adhered to the grill? So I noticed there's some stuff.
Sometimes if I add water, I could get that, but I don't want to lose the flavor. There's flavor in that, so it's to every effort to get that mixed in with it. Yeah, and adding it to it. So there's a lot of good flavor there, so. Alright, and knowing that the grill's going to stay at least, that it's still going to stay hot for probably like at least another 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to turn it off now, let it be, and then I'm going to add the butter to it and let it just kind of simmer up there and do its thing. Let it go through its natural. I'm going to do maybe like a half.
So there's a chance if you didn't turn the flame on, you might burn the butter.
Yeah, and then you would end up with like all of it, yeah.
Is it salted?
Yeah.
Is that the saltiest?
Why do you use, because it's got some people who like salt, why do you use unsalted butter as opposed to salted? Besides that, there's no other reason.
For me, I've never requested salted or unsalted. Whatever's there, I'll go with it. So then if it's like in a few minutes, at some point I would have looked over and said, okay, is that salted or unsalted? And if it's unsalted, so then I would have even added less salt, knowing that the cheese and the thing, or if it's salted, if it's unsalted, then the other way around.
Probably more important than tasting.
See, now it's getting lumpier and less of the.
See, we tried that with
Alright, now we're going to add. And like I said before, the Himalayan salt is very mild. So we're not going to add too much, but we're not going to add too little either. Start with a little bit. So you see how long that's taking to get the water out? And that was overnight.
You kind of want that presented like small clumps.
Exactly.
The water's gone, so it's just
Now see if you see the tofu, see how it's starting to brown like that? So now the tofu by its own, I haven't put butter in there, nothing yet, but it's starting to get more like in large clumps versus like all those small broken pieces. That's what you want. See? Did you see that? See this? This is how you want it to start coming. Like this. You see that? Nyata.
Yeah, I did.
See this natural? Oh, that natural. Now it's like natural. But see how much water's still in here? And again, I wouldn't, I mean, I guess, I'm sure there's probably methods that other cooks would say, oh yeah, no, you can do that like half the time. I've never tried. It's like, if I'm going to commit to doing it, let me just go through the process, have fun, do something else, work on the next thing, work on setting up the trays, go and clean up my mess, do like other things while it's happening, but like just be there with it, not try to make it in 10 minutes. And that's what always my thing with cooking, is like if I'm going to go cook, then let me open up everything else and close the door and just come and cook, which I love to do around the holidays. Because it takes time and you want to enjoy it and be immersed in it. Right? Yes. So now we're getting to a point where we can probably start to get ready at least for some of the turmeric. We still need to get rid of a little bit more water here. We're going to have toast with ours, so I would say if somebody wants to, and then we'll put cloths over them, you can do one stack of the 7 grain on this one, and then the red alone, the sourdough on this one, and just make them so they're in a nice light fan shape, so when we go out for presentation time or lunchtime, and then we'll leave the gluten-free one like this, and then we'll put towels over the top. So they don't get dried out.
You want to stand circular or you just
No,
want
just
to
just straight, yeah.
This is 9 grain.
I'm just coming up with other things to keep moving with the flow here. And I always have a fetish about butter. If you're going to serve toast, take the butter out before so it's nicely, easily spreads on the toast and doesn't rip it. So this maybe we can do a bowl from over there or a small plate and we can already undo them. And just
sliced it.
No, you can just put it, yeah. We're 30 people.
Did
so
you
we're
ever
good.
try vegan cheese and vegan butter?
No.
Try that.
We usually get right now what we've got here is, the regular butter, but usually we also get a lot of the Amish rolls. You know, at Adams they have those big rolls, so we've like had those here before. We've had different, that's another group that loves to try different butters. So the Irish butter for this and this butter for that, so we get like really, and then whatever you start coming through here, it's always ever new, what can I tell you? It's just according to what products are there, and it's fun and it's joyful, and whatever we come across, then we try to bring it through here. So I think we could start with this, and we'll see how we go, right? And then this, let's get one more shelf for 3 people. Maybe you can get one of those round pans over there for like what Ron put the budgies in yesterday. Yeah. Maybe while we're waiting for the tofu, just to be proactive, maybe you can already, let's visit our whole thing of the Vogue offering. So at the same time, we can already, with full attention, you can go over the steps on that. Jayshree, do you want your copy ahead of time? So these are the ones that everyone's going to go home with. So this is the Naivedya, the offering of the food. So then everybody can have a copy of that in your own kitchens. So this one I'll give to you. Thanks. And then take them out.
Do you want the bread?
Yeah, you can, that's fine, you can put it out as long as it's got cloths over it so it doesn't get dry.
Deviani, what does the word vogue actually mean?
What is the type, what?
This word, what does it mean?
Vogue.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
It's like
Pleasure, okay.
you're feeding the dogs. So it's for their pleasure.
Aha, thank you. Because
It's the opposite of yoga.
yeah. That's a possibility.
Alright, so I'm gonna already add the turmeric in now so that it can, and the thing that I would say on the turmeric is make sure that once you add it, that you really mix it through thoroughly, because otherwise sometimes it's like the same time type of thing like with potato wadas. You bite into it, part of the potato is yellow, part of it is white. Or like with the tofu, you take a bite and part of it's still white because it didn't really get, so I have a pet peeve on that, make sure it's really, really mixed in thoroughly. And again, don't be afraid to mix it. Before we start the vote, why don't we do another round here? Everyone come through. You can take a turn again on mixing it and getting an idea of the texture of where we're at right now. And just keep trying to see no white. Like I said before, I wouldn't want to try to make this immediate by adding Indian spices to it. No, I said that. I'm going to try to make Yeah, exactly.
Deviani?
Tofu, so what? Fluffy, right?
What's your second best option for cheese? For cheese?
If you didn't, I would use like any type of a Swiss cheese, probably Gruyere.
Yeah.
If you don't have a, or if you just want it nice and light, then just do a grated Parmesan. But I would always go with either Gruyere or the Jarlsberg. Which one were you thinking of in Argentina? Tell me, and then I'll let you know if it's not too creamy.
Gouda,
Yeah, Gouda.
Fontina, those we
Fontina.
have.
Yeah, Gouda, you could do Gouda. The white one or the yellowish or not orange, not the
It's
orange?
that color.
Okay.
That color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you can do it.
What's available, yes?
Coming under. Still finding some white in there? Yeah. It's amazing how long it takes the concealer to actually permeate all the white aspects of it. No, that's not. Just by feel, like when I just told him to shop, we didn't do this and I was like, whatever's left over, I don't do it for but then you go by feel. You just go by feel. You look at the ocean and then I know. Okay, if I have one layer, one grill, one layer on the grill. You don't want too much. This is, I don't know what it wants to do that. I know it's one full box, but I don't know what it wants to do. Well, on the, where the tofu, these are commercial boxes, what's on there are regular firm ones from the grocery store and health food store. What we get is a larger box. I want to see how many ounces or a pound on what the weight is on that.
Cordova.
Cordova. Yeah.
Similar to
Is
that
that
one.
similar to that?
Pate grass.
Pate grass. Pate grass. Right? Taste it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The pate grass is what we use in Argentina. Pate grass. So right now, again, I'm not going to add any salt to that until I add that mixture to it, and then add the cheese and the butter, and then see where we're at, right? So we're just going to stay. Ready to cook? I think for now we'll add the rest of our butter because it's dry enough. Just try to get it on the bottom of the pot so that it vary it. Okay, so now let's, actually we need to wait till we have a minute to get the sauce. And it's like the word yeah, this is the mixture that's going to get mixed into there. The main thing is to let the tofu become free of all the water so that it gets dry, so that you can brown it on the bottom with the olive oil and then a little bit of butter for more browning, more flavor. So all we have in here right now is the tofu, olive oil, butter, no salt, because we're gonna wait for this mixture to go in with Epsom salt and the cheese, and then we'll see it at the end if it needs any more. And then the turmeric, right? And the turmeric in this case is only for color, not for the flavor. And again, I would also say, like, another main thing is, be aware, if you cook, don't make extra mess for people to have to clean out behind you. You know what I mean? Pay attention. If you're going from here to here, try to really make it there. Don't have it fall through the cracks and then somebody's got to go through. Try to really be as aware as we can. And we also said always start with extra firm so the texture is better.
Is that two burners over there?
What was that? Yeah, two flames. Inner flame and the outer flame, yep.
Now on a regular stove top,
Yep.
you don't have that.
Yep.
So you would keep it what, high flame?
Medium to high. So get the water out first, and then you gotta slowly start to
Then you go to a simmer.
lower. Then you go to what? Yeah.
Simmer.
Not really simmer, but you want to keep cooking it. You don't want the tofu to be like too raw. You want it to definitely be cooked. But you don't want it to burn. Like at the end now that it's very dry, I don't want it to burn because the flame is too high. So it's what we talked about, always paying attention to that flame and adjusting it. Still have white pieces in here. So it's just like an ongoing process of getting rid of all that.
So you never have to add anymore. You just keep mixing it and it should spread out.
Yeah, and it'll keep breaking it down and it'll keep getting mixed really thoroughly.
Because a lot of times your mind says put a little more
A little more.
turmeric.
Yeah, no.
You know, when it's
So easy on the turmeric because otherwise it'll over flavor it and the whole thing will. You want to stir it up on it and I'll move over here and add a little bit more of this.
use onions, would you use the sweet onions?
I would use the spring onions or I would use the Maui onions. Any of those, yeah.
What is pretty?
What?
Green onions.
Spring onions, you know, like scallions?
Scallions.
Yeah, scallions. Personally, I like the scallions. I like the Maui onions.
Yeah.
Red onions.
Yeah.
Next lifetime. Alright, so now, does anybody want to come by and have a look at what it looks like now? Just so you get a clear vision before we add the cheese to it?
That looks good.
Good. Wow.
It's a nice Yeah, green onion I did, but I just never made it. Green onions, mushroom.
Now we're going to go ahead and start adding the cheese.
Okay. That
The
was
cheese has to be a little at a time so that you can fold it in.
exciting. You cooked in the onions?
Yeah, you want to keep folding it in. Folding it in. Folding it in. Yeah, folding it in. Flipping it in. And it's the same thing with the tofu eggs, the tofu scramble. Once it's done, and we turn off the burners at one point, we'll let it settle, put the lid on, and just let it be. So that everything comes together and it has that pause.
So what's the ratio of cheese to tofu?
Your own tongue, your own flavor.
Is there a certain look to it? Like, do you want it
No, I
gooey?
just know like that there's 30 people gonna eat this, so like I wanna make sure that everybody doesn't just get one little piece in there. Like it should have flavor. It should be like equally to everybody. Yeah, not that, yeah, exactly. So I just wanna, I'm always about enough, you know, it's gotta be like abundant in everything.
Okay.
One can never have too much.
Yes, truly.
That's when you don't have to work. Exactly. And the steam and the, yeah, exactly. And the joy of doing that is for when it goes there. There's less on the dishwashing. They don't have to be, you know, always thinking ahead for the next person after you. What?
You are not even.
That to me is good. काली मिर्च पाउडर हाँ वो बढ़िया वाला नहीं वो जो एकदम हरी वाला वो और भी है वो जो I'm particular with the black pepper. It has to be like really fine so that you don't actually see, it doesn't change it, and then all of a sudden you have these little black speckles in it. That's
Not good.
not happening. It has to be like the real. No, ऊपर से वो.
और करो इसमें करो.
हाँ हाँ. Still to this day, just another trivia thing. My grandparents came over one time for for breakfast, and I didn't tell them that it was not eggs. So I made the tofu eggs, and my grandfather was like, honey, this is, and he's Italian, this is the best eggs we've ever had. This is so great. Still today, he passed away, never knew that it was tofu. Never told him. Never told him. Yeah, exactly. He would not have eaten
my
it.
Italian grandmother, right?
Yeah,
Forget it.
wouldn't have, yeah. Great, so just show that up. Yeah, so you definitely want the more fine ground pepper versus that one that's just like with speckles everywhere. Right, and that gets mixed in nicely.
Pepper powder.
What I've done in And especially here at the ashram, always paying attention to that clock and keeping time and being, because everything runs by 7:30, 8 o'clock breakfast, 1 o'clock lunch, 5:30 or 7 p.m. dinner, depending upon the time of the year. This is now gonna sit. That's when real magic happens. Now. Nothing's happening. So now we'll all move towards this direction, and Prabhu will give us some guidelines on the bow, and when you need to come here to take from there, you can take from there. So in there, just where you
He's asking what time is lunch.
whatever time he wants. What time would you like it to be? Tell him we can be ready in 15 minutes. If he wants to do it earlier today, because I think he's probably trying to give time for the plates to go get delivered and for everything else. Ask him if he wants to do it at 12:30, 12:35. 12:35 we can do it. 15 minutes. Okay. Now the most important thing is, वो सबसे पहले क्या है इधर?
भगवान के लिए पानी with food जो हम साथ में पानी.
Okay, so he said first of all you have your little plate here, which you're going to put your offering on, right? Whatever you've cooked, you're going to put it on here. And now what you've got over here is whatever water, like so that the gods can drink their water with their food. So you have a liquid here, and then.
And दूसरा पानी जो भोग लगाने के लिए use करते हैं आचमनी.
And then for actually for like the ceremony, for the ritual, then you have a separate thing of water that you're going to use to perform that. Greetings. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Can you go check if Walden, if he doesn't want to do it, because if that's the case, then you need to turn the temperature. Okay.
तो आप इसके हिसाब से बताइए तो उस हिसाब से मैं कर दूँगा.
step number 1 is clean the offering area and wash your hands. Right, so that's number 1. Number 2, place a little portion of each freshly prepared dish in the vessels designated for the bhog. Light the lamp with puja oil. Light the incense with the lamp flame. That's what he's doing right now. And then wave the incense 3 times in a clockwise direction. So that's where we're at right now.
Food or wave it in a picture?
Excuse me?
Wave it at the food or wave it in a picture?
आपको किधर wave करना है? इसमें और इसमें?
भगवान
To the gods. To the pictures. And now he's waving the lamp 3 times. And then take some water in your right hand and sprinkle it around the plate in a clockwise direction.
Om Pranaya Swaha, Om Apanaya Swaha, Om Vyanaya Swaha, Om Udanaya Swaha, Om Samanaya Swaha, Om Brahmane Namaha.
And then pour 2 spoons of water in the plate. And then you're going to repeat it again. Take some water in your right hand and sprinkle it around the plate in a clockwise direction. Close your eyes and repeat the following mantras with left hand placed on the heart and the right hand, thumb, middle, and ring finger in the act of feeding the deity, starting from the heart to the mouth of the deity.
Om Pranaya Swaha, Om Apanaya Swaha, Om Vyanaya Swaha, Om Udanaya Swaha, Om Samanaya Swaha, Om Brahmane Namaha.
And then we'll chant the following mantras with folded hands, and that's the ones that we have outside that are up on the wall there. Om Brahmanam Brahmavir Brahmanam Brahmanam Brahmavir Namasavyam Brahma Karma Samadhyam Aishana Bhuta Pranam Devashya Pranapana Samayukta Pachanyanam Chavardyam Sadhurnath Maharaj Ki Jai. And pour 3 spoons of water in the plate. Then take the Arati blessing with both hands placed first over the flame and then over your head. And after a few moments, mix the offering with the meal, which is to be served to everyone. So then that plate comes back here and then gets whatever goes out to the serving station has that already mixed.
So the chant is done twice. It's done here alone and then with everybody.
Yep. Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhu speaks English.
Yes.
He understands more than he knows.
So does the shok. They somehow get very shy and then it's like, you speak.
Question.
Yes.
So do you say the mantra silently in here? And
either way.
It doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. It can be just you silently to yourself or you can
do it out loud.
Yep, totally up to your own comfort. Yes.
Yes, we'll have it in 5-10 minutes.
So he wants to have it early.
Yeah, I turned the toast on.
Huh?
I turned the toast on.
Okay, great. So 12:35 is lunch. So thank you all for joining us for the morning, and we'll see everybody at 3 p.m. in the dining room with Cheryl on pecan toffee bars and ginger, lemon, and honey tea. Sadhguru Maharaj Ki Jai.